Go ahead, Heather.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Heather. I'm an oracle card reader and co-host with All Things Energy, How to Connect with Your Psychic Ability. Please welcome Dana Jensen, our beautiful psychic medium. Dana?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So good morning. We're so happy to have Paul Ottmann here, who is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for many, many years. And he's a psychic and a Reiki healer. And we're here talking about communicating with our spirit guides. So welcome, Paul. Nice to have you here.
Good morning, Dana. Good morning, Heather. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
I guess this is the first time you two have ever met.
Yes.
It is.
Wonderful. Good. So I think really how we're going to get into this is, everybody's always wondering, how is my guides talking to me? How are we communicating? Who are my guides? I hear those questions all the time. But Paul, what I want to ask you, and something that maybe I believe in some way, is that you have many guides throughout your life that come in different times for different circumstances. So they're almost like they're masters at whatever circumstance that you're in. Can you agree to that? Or is that something that is just sort of my thing?
No, it's actually very, very true. We are surrounded by angels and guides. Despite what people may think or feel, they're there at all points in time in our life. We do have a set guides that sort of walk through our lives with us many lifetimes, but they do change over time. So as we grow and as we change ourselves and mature on the continuum, so do our guides change and come and go for different purposes and needs in our lives.
So I find it interesting when somebody has a baby or something, a new guide will come in. A new guide will come in when they have a baby and they're embarking on motherhood. I always see new guides around people. So
yeah, the symbolism too of a baby is of new life, right? New beginnings, right? So with them comes new energy and, of course, a new set of guides.
That's excellent. Good. Heather, is there anything you'd like to contribute or ask Paul?
Yes. Well, I am new to learning more about guides and knowing that I have them around me. I do feel them, but not able to see them. And I'd like to know how many I have, or is the number always changing?
That's a really good question, Heather. So as I touch in with your spirit, I'm met by 3 particular individuals. Now, interestingly enough, guides tend to be a mix of angelic realm, which there are a couple of different realms, and there are some discarnate souls. So when I say discarnate souls, that means people who actually at one point in time walked the earth plane in human form. Angels typically do not, or they may have at some point in time as they've increased their energy. But you have 3 particular individuals around you. One of them is a discarnate soul who comes forward from your mother's side of the house, who guides and protects you. She watches over you sort of in your, I'll say in your daily world. Because she sort of had to keep you, as she said, on the sidewalk when you were a little girl, because you just seemed to want to go run around and not necessarily pay attention to the, she says, the obvious dangers of the world. You were quite a free spirit back then. So she still sort of stands beside you or walks with you to make sure you stay on the sidewalk and pay attention to what's around you. From the angelic realm, interestingly enough, Heather, you have some of, I don't like to say hierarchy, but there are some of the higher ones. So Metrodon comes around a little bit for you. And you actually have one other male. This male is an older male from your dad's side of the house. This is 3 generations back. Fairly heavy set man. You would not have known him on the earth plane. Very, very round faced, very staunch. And he is more your logical, very stern individual. you're not very good about setting boundaries, he says, and keeping, I shouldn't say keeping people away, but learning how to say no to people and not absorbing their energy. So he's almost a guard for you, and stops people from sucking your energy and absorbing you into them.
Beautiful.
So you have three lovely, lovely, lovely entities around you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Love it. Thank you. I'm very, very excited about all three of them. And yes, you've hit it on with my mother. Well, you said mother's side, but I know it's my mom. And yeah, and the male side for my dad's. Yeah, that's really good. I do know who you're talking about. I've done some research on him, and yes, yeah, he's a pretty amazing fella. He went and lived in Burma for quite a long time, and married my great grandmother in Burma. So
he has an army mentality. He said to me,
yes,
very, very structured and very strict. There's the words.
Yes.
It's always that militant aspect to it. I want to ask though, Paul, I feel like there's rules to what guides can do and what they can't do. I mean, the guides are not always here to, get us out of hot water or what have you. Sometimes they're just so subtle about things, right? I feel like they're just supposed to be, there's rules, right? Would you not agree with that?
For sure, there are rules of engagement, no doubt about it, in terms of something as simplistic as we need to ask and be clear about what we're asking. Otherwise, they won't necessarily engage with us. And we are here to learn lessons on the earth plane in our human form. So they're not going to circumvent us learning our lessons for sure. But they will be there for us to support us and give us guidance if we ask.
So it's the important thing is to ask.
Correct. And be very clear.
Very clear on what you're asking.
Correct. Be very, very, very clear about what you're asking.
Be careful what you wish for. Is that a
Correct.
good proverb that we want to kind of talk about? So I find it really interesting that's really what it's about there. Oh, sorry, I'm what's going on here? My things are crazy. I'm sorry, I'm so new to this, and I'm trying really hard to make sure that we are doing a good job making this really smooth for you guys. So forgive me if I don't do exactly what it is, but I'm working on it. So back to this. I'm sorry to interject with that. So I've known many times that I've asked people's names, and I get the strangest names, but I know a lot of people have asked if, can you tell me your name or so on and so forth. And I've said many times, show me who you are, what your life was about, kind of a rundown of your character, just to personally get to know the guides. And don't be surprised if they're not, like even otherworldly guides. I find that there is the strangest people who come and see me, and they are guides and they are messages, but they don't look like you and me most of the time. Have you ever had that experience?
Good question. So, sort of from a personal share perspective, I remember starting out asking that similar question, which is, show me who you are, what's your name, sort of the general questions. And for the longest time, like I had a sense, I knew they were there. I could sense this particular individual. I knew it was a female energy, and it just took time to develop that rapport, or what I call the dictionary. So keep asking, the question, be very clear about, what is your name? Did you walk the earth plane? Whatever those questions are. And eventually you'll begin to see sort of potentially patterns, or a certain name will keep coming up. You may very well clearly hear that name, right, with your internal senses or your ear, but they'll eventually come through and they'll give you that information if you just keep asking.
Keep asking. I know I used to have this, not used to, I'm sure she comes around quite often, but I had a lady named Margaret that came and visited me all the time. And years ago, I used to do development training where people come in and I teach people how to sort of tap into their senses. And we would do this aura class, and all of a sudden people would be like seeing this entity come over me. It would sort of come over my face and
Mhm.
change the way I look. And then I'd open my eyes and everybody'd be sitting there gobsmacked, like, what's going on? Like, why do you look like that? Like everybody'd be like, what, you
Mhm.
changed, you don't look normal. And I'm like, oh, don't worry, it's just my guide, you know, and really it's what it was. And I could feel her sort of coming over top of me in a way, inside of me and over top of me, but I know she was there to help with that. And it was
Yeah.
amazing when I'd open my eyes and I'd see 10 people just sitting there like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah. It's actually a interesting, because I had a very similar experience when I used to do readings full time for people. People would often say they would watch me physically change before their eyes. And the same as you, I could feel my guide or guides come around very close, and one would always sort of, um, for the lack of a better word, sit on my lap, let's say, right, and just be right there, and people would actually physically see changes occur as a result.
I was an old dark woman at one point too. So that like my skin went dark and I was like
Yeah.
90 or 100 years old and everybody be like, "Oh my God, you just went old." But again, I mean it's sort of disturbing to the people who are looking because that's not, you know, common in everyday reality. But I will tell you, your animals do it too. Or
Hmm.
you know, when you lose somebody and you're walking down the street and then all of a sudden you see somebody who looks exactly like the person who's just crossed over, I honestly believe that their spirit or their energy is transposed on top of that person, and for a brief second you can actually see them. And I always think that that's a wonderful message to give. So
Yeah.
and I know lots of people who've had that experience.
Yeah, that is that is a gift. That's a great experience to see for sure. And if you go back in history around mediumship in the 1800s, 1700s, mediumship was physical mediumship, is what they aspired to. So that was pretty common to see physical manifestations of spirit.
Would you say it's an old energy now that maybe that isn't
Hmm.
something that's so commonly used? Because I know we can do it if we're spiritually in tune like this, we can absolutely do it. But is it an old energy?
It's a good question. So I tried for years to produce physical mediumship, as you know, they referred to it in the 1800s. And one of the keys that they would always talk about in order to do it was obviously to sit in circle with the same people, same day, same time, every week, to build the energy. But they also talked about a lot about the purity of our life. So purity both of our thoughts and our physical life, your eating habits. And it takes time to manifest that kind of energy. And in our, I always sort of go back to, in this day and age, you know, in our society, which is very quick, we don't seem to want to take the time to invest in that. And I'm not sure if that really is the true block as to why we don't do it. I've had a few experiences over time, but it's also was a great amount of time and energy to invest in order to manifest it. So, you know, it would be something to think about in terms of trying to practice it again.
Or like that Skulls experiment. Have you ever heard of that Skull experiment? They would this group of people, like you said, would go every week into a locked basement. They would have the workers who were communicating with the spirit, but then they'd have observers that were totally impartial. Quite often they were law enforcement and so on. And they were trying to debunk the shenanigans that can go with having like a seance and what have you. But actually, what ends up happening is that they were, if you ever get a chance, it's a really neat video to watch, and it's called the Skull Experiment. And you can find it on YouTube. And it's just a bunch of English people who sit around, and they were communicating, and they were using film. They would put a roll of film in a locked box. And what they would do is there would be words on it or pictures or messages from the other side and from the guides, and even the people on the other side were very excited to sort of come in and join the conversation as well. It was very interesting. I watched it years ago. I'm sure it's still out there, but that was one thing.
Well, the production of ectoplasm, or the actual physical moving of an object, those were sort of the common practices back then, right? And it's pretty hard to argue when the physical being or the eye actually sees a table lift or move, or ectoplasm produce out of somebody's body, right, and form into an image.
And I think a lot of times too is that we have such a powerful telekinetic ability too. So we want to be able to sort of differentiate between, is this our guide speaking to us? Is the spirit speaking to us? Or do we have this ability to, I mean, quite often I'll put a pencil on the table and try and move it with my mind. You know, you're gonna blow your socks off when you can actually move it. But we have this ability, and it's been so removed from common day society. And I think this is kind of where we went wrong all along. So, and back to the guides, when we have guides and we're able to tap into them, and I say healing guides, but healing guides are more about healing your body, mind, and soul, not just healing, you know, maybe a sickness or a tumor or something. It's healing the whole mechanism.
Correct. Yeah. So guides are there. You know, you made a good point there, Dana, in the sense that I call it the gift, or you know, we're all born with the gift. We lose it over time because we are in physical world, and it's, you know, very dense, and there's lots of things going on. So we tend to not nurture that connection as we go through our life. So, you know, again, building that bridge or that connection again takes time and energy. And you need to meditate. You need to calm your mind down. You need to, you know, breathe, relax, ask questions of the spirit world, whether you do it physically, you know, saying it out loud, or whether you do it mentally as you're meditating and asking questions. And your guides are there, angels are there, healing guides are there. I know that this will probably, people may raise an eyebrow, but you know, there's many healing modalities on the earth plane, and as people, we've labeled them. So you know, there's Reiki, there's spiritual healing, there's touch therapy, there's all kinds of them. And there's lots of people that will say, well, you know, these are all different forms of healing, therefore they're different energies. My experience has shown me that there is one energy, one entity, one way, you know, one connectedness. And, you know, we may take different paths to get there, but it is one source of energy that we're tapping into to gain insight, to gain our healing, to connect with.
Very
If you
good.
don't mind, yeah, I have a question. Now, sometimes when I'm sleeping, I will feel a paralysis come over my body, and I can't move, but I see lots of sparkly lights going on around me. Can you help me understand what's going on there? I'm sure it's my guides, but what's happening?
You're actually starting to astral travel, Heather.
That's exactly right.
The heaviness of your body, your physical body. So the best way to describe it is we have a silver cord, which is attached to our abdomen or our belly button, right? So that connects our soul and our physical body together. And that happens at birth when we come into the physical world. So at nighttime, when you're laying there and you're relaxed, your soul is leaving your body, right? And therefore you're actually in that meditative state between conscious awareness and sleep, and you're beginning to levitate and leave your body. So you're feeling the sense that I can't move my body because your soul is actually on its way to do some astral traveling. It's very, very common. Pretty much everybody does it every night. You're sleeping, you just don't realize it.
So you do.
Yeah. And then you're out experiencing all of these things at the soul level, you've gone back home, sometimes people call it, to visit and do a couple of things. And then you probably have had this experience. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, you wake up and you're like, you jump, right? And that's because your soul wasn't expecting you to wake up, and you did. So it comes rushing back to your body and goes back into your body, and then you go jump. And then that heaviness begins to lift then from your physical body.
Okay. All right. So there, see, I was misunderstanding or not knowing, but thanks, Paul. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So just to add to that as well, it can be quite a frightening experience to have this happening to you. When you can't move and you feel this paralysis, it is off-putting, obviously. And basically, really what you want to do is you just want to relax. You want to kind of go with the flow of things. Don't try to resist it, but you can actually call your soul back as well. And it doesn't take very long. So there's a few mechanisms that you can do. If it's getting a little intense or it's getting a little crazy, you can actually just go ahead and call your soul back. And the tether line will actually bring you back into your body. Personally, I would say go with it, because you'll never know what you'll see, and it'll be the most amazing thing. Some people have terrifying experiences, but even if you're having a terrifying experience, it actually could move you to the next step, where you could actually eliminate the negativity that's coming just by consciously changing the frequency and sort of dialing into something that's a little bit better. So always keep that in mind, and don't be fearful. Your soul isn't going to go off into the ethers and never come back. It's always going to be tethered to you one way or another. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Yeah. We were talking last week, Heather, around fear, right? So there's two things to always be very cognizant of, is that spirit will only show you what you need to know at that moment in time. And if you're afraid, right, or if you sort of develop some fear, they will back off right away. So they're not there to scare you. They're not there to upset you. They'll only show you and tell you what you need to know for that moment in time. And as soon as our egos kick in or fear kicks in, they will back right off, because that's not what they're there for, is to scare you.
Wonderful. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm not in fear, sorry, but I'm just not in fear. I just want to absorb and understand all of this as much as possible. So there again, going back to my mother and keeping me on the sidewalk.
Yeah. I think it's hard to understand it sometimes, because these are not everyday experiences. These are not things that happen to you on a regular basis. So you're thinking, our brains are not kind of wired to be able to say, yeah, okay, this is a really good experience going this way. Even I get a little startled sometimes, even I'm sort of like, oh, or if I see a spirit or I see a ghost in the hallway, I'm like, but even if there was a person standing there, I'd be frightened, right? So, it doesn't, you want to be able to say, okay, you're always safe. And of course, always remember there's more good people than bad people out there. So, and really, if there's anything truly negative around you, it's really unmistakable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so that's very true. I always love getting up in the middle of the night, because I don't turn on any lights and go to the bathroom, and I come around the corner and there's somebody standing right there, and it still to this day catches me off guard. I'm like, oh, what do you want?
It's startling. It is. And all of a sudden you'll be sitting there and you'll feel, and I'm sure this is when guides come in too, because all of a sudden you're just sitting there and you feel this energy moving up towards you, and it just stands there. And if you look, you're not going to see anything, but you can feel it and you can see it out of the corner of your eye, and you want to look so bad. But basically just sit. How can I help you today? What will you have me know? Yeah. What are you doing here? Quite often I'll have people from the other side that are coming in for clients that I'm going to read in that day. They come in early. They're a little overzealous. Hi, I'm here. So, you just want to kind of tap into the energy, and it is your mind that's going to receive it. Now, not only your mind, body, and soul will receive it, but there's something about understanding the data that you're getting and how you're feeling about it. So I think our guides are very, very good at being able to discern things for us. So I don't know. I think this is something that we should talk about in the future, spirits and ghosts and how to communicate
Mhm.
and the do's, the don'ts. There's certain things you don't want to do, and there's certain things that you do want to do. So I think that'd be great future conversation for us to have.
For sure, for sure.
This
There,
is awesome.
there are two points there, Dana. So there are three ways people will perceive and or pick up. So it's clairvoyant, clairaudient, and clairsentient. So I hear, I sense, and I feel. So we usually typically pick up one or the other or all three when you sort of begin that type of process. So it's clairvoyant, clairaudient, or clairsentient. I hear, I see, or I feel.
And you'll probably be stronger at one than the other naturally. So that's okay to kind of move through that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So fantastic. So I wanted to say tomorrow's show, we're going to be talking about more of the universal laws. We're going to do part 2 because we didn't quite get through everything that we needed to get through because I'm a bit of a rambler, but that's okay. And and we're also offering free oracle readings and a free burning question as well for anybody who chats on here, comments and likes and shares. We are going to be doing a random draw weekly, and hopefully you want to participate in that, and we can do it over Zoom or over the phone call. And Heather and I will be doing that as well. Paul, if you want to get in on this, you're more than welcome to as well. We're hoping that you're here with us weekly. I think your information is it's just so great. I just love having these conversations. Heather and I do great conversations every day, but I think it's really great when we have guests on as well. It just really adds to the whole channel and what we're doing here.
Well, I'm humbled to be in your presence, you and Heather, and I certainly appreciate the opportunity to join in and talk about spirit.
That's wonderful. So how can people get a hold of you if they're looking for a Reiki master or looking for a psychic reading?
For sure. I'll give you my email address. So it's last name is Ottmann, Ottmann, @ymail.com.
Wonderful. And I put it in the description below this video. And Heather, did you want to draw a card for us to close out?
Yes, and you're going to like this. I did the shuffling before the show, and it came out taking action. I enthusiastically embrace life's boundless possibilities. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
I love the possibilities of all the things that we are creating here. I think it's going to be really amazing and an amazing journey. I'm so grateful to be able to do this. And although I'm learning all the technical stuff, and I'm getting better and better every day. And if anybody ever wants to give suggestions on how to make it better, I am open to that 100%. But I think for this time, don't forget to join us tomorrow. And I guess Thursdays are a good day for you, are they, Paul?
Pretty much, yes, Dana. That's probably the best day. Now, the next 2 weeks, I am on vacation, so we will have that conversation though around how we manifest this.
That sounds awesome. Good. Okay, we do have another special guest too, but it'll be 8:00 on Wednesday, and that's Mike Dampier, and he has the most amazing insight. Oh my gosh. This guy filters through CIA information and, just the wealth of knowledge that this guy has about everything metaphysical is just amazing. So I can't wait to have this conversation. I've been talking to him for a few years now. So he'll be here Wednesday at 8:00, and we'll be doing that. But other than that, I think we're going to close out and end the live. And it has been my pleasure to sit with both of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Cheers. Be well, everyone. Take care.